Gary Heidnik's fatal overconfidence. In the chilling annals of true crime, some cases are too horrifying to forget. Among them is the story of Gary Heidnik, a man whose name has become synonymous with unbridled evil. Behind the locked doors of his Philadelphia home, unspeakable crimes unfolded, leaving a permanent mark on those involved. But as monstrous as Heidnik was, his reign of terror came to an abrupt and inevitable halt, not by the hands of the authorities, but through one brave woman's courage. Josefina Rivera, a victim he thought he had broken, became the force that shattered the fragile facade of his control. This is the story of how Heidnik's fatal overconfidence sealed his twisted fate. Gary Heidnik was not an average predator. A man with a troubled past, Heidnik's psychological profile paints a picture of a calculating and deeply disturbed individual. Despite a history of mental health issues and failed relationships, he maintained the outward appearance of normalcy, enough at least to hide the horrors within his home. Heidnik wasn't merely a manipulator, he was someone who sought dominance. He preyed on the vulnerable, carefully selecting his victims from society's fringes. Over the course of his reign of terror, he transformed his basement into a dungeon, a place where his depravity could run free, away from prying eyes. Heidnik's mastery lay in his ability to dehumanize those he captured, creating conditions so traumatic that his victims became shadows of themselves, numbed by fear and abuse. But in Josefina Rivera, he miscalculated on an unimaginable scale. In November 1986, Josefina Rivera was abducted by Heidnik in what she assumed was a deadly mistake. Her survival instincts would later prove crucial, not just for her, but for all the women trapped with her. She endured unspeakable abuse during her captivity, forced into a reality no person should ever face. From the outset, Heidnik employed manipulation as his weapon of choice. His ultimate goal was to create unquestioning loyalty among his victims. To achieve this, he subjected Josefina and the others to a meticulously planned system of physical and emotional torment. But Josefina was different. Through all the cruelty, she observed him carefully, understanding his habits, his ego, and his overconfidence. While her captor believed he was breaking her spirit, she was instead devising a way out. By early 1987, Heidnik's growing overconfidence in his dominant role became apparent. He began trusting Josefina more than his other captives, even allowing her liberties he didn't extend to the others. This misplaced trust would prove to be his undoing. On March 24, 1987, Heidnik made a fateful error. Believing Josefina to be reformed and loyal, he permitted her to leave the house under the condition that she would return. For a man who thought he controlled every possible outcome, it was an inconceivable act of arrogance. But Josefina had no intention of coming back. Instead, she made a desperate move. Once outside, she ran directly to the nearest phone and called the police. Decades of control collapsed in a moment of defiance. Armed with Josefina's detailed account, authorities arrived at Heidnik's home. What they discovered defied comprehension. The basement revealed a scene of unimaginable suffering. Chains, torture devices, and evidence of human depravity surrounded them. The rescued victims bore the scars, physical and emotional, of months of captivity. Malnourished and broken, they confirmed Josefina's story. Among the most horrifying details was Heidnik's attempt to use his victims to fulfill a sick fantasy of building a family under his control. His actions could only be described as grotesque, a glaring reminder of the depths human cruelty can reach. The basement of horrors sent shockwaves through the city, leaving the public grappling for answers as to how someone could commit such heinous acts unnoticed. But the true answer lay in Heidnik's perceived confidence, his belief that he was untouchable, that his manipulations were flawless. It did not take long for law enforcement to piece together a case strong enough to ensure Heidnik's arrest. Josefina's detailed testimony and the evidence extracted from the basement left no room for doubt. Heidnik's trial was a media spectacle, with the gruesome details horrifying audiences across the country. Yet even in the courtroom, Heidnik attempted to maintain his manipulative facade. He portrayed himself as misunderstood, an act that failed to sway jurors in the face of overwhelming evidence. In 1988, Gary Heidnik was sentenced to death. His incarceration ended with his execution in 1999, closing a case that haunted law enforcement and the public for years. But for those who survived, the trauma of what they endured could never truly vanish. Heidnik's downfall is a glaring example of how even the most calculated predators are not invincible. His manipulation, while sinister, unraveled because he underestimated his victims' resilience and humanity. Josefina Rivera, whom he thought he had broken, became his greatest adversary. Predators like Heidnik thrive on dehumanization, but Josefina's story reminds us that even under unfathomable pressure, the human spirit can endure. Her escape was not only a testament to her personal strength, but also to the importance of taking definitive action against evil, disrupting cycles of abuse. For true crime enthusiasts, the story of Gary Heidnik offers more than just a glimpse into the mind of a criminal. It amplifies themes of resilience and the fight for justice. Josefina Rivera's bravery is a reminder of how one courageous voice can save countless lives. She not only freed herself, but also brought justice for the other victims held captive, proving it is possible to rise above even the darkest circumstances. Gary Heidnik's overconfidence ultimately became his fatal flaw. His reliance on control blinded him to the perseverance of the human will. Though his story is one of horror, it is equally one of triumph, a narrative of how bravery in the face of unimaginable evil can inspire us all. Gary Heidnik's case serves as a chilling yet compelling reminder of the depths of human depravity and the profound strength of human resilience. For Josefina Rivera, her survival and ability to act in the face of fear put an end to a predator whose sense of power made him careless. This story leaves us reflecting on an important question. What is it about the human spirit that allows it to endure and overcome? In Josefina's escape, we find an answer: the unwavering belief in freedom, even when it seems impossible. For true crime enthusiasts, her story embodies a triumph of light over darkness, a narrative both haunting and unforgettable. Remember her name, Josefina Rivera, the woman who stared evil in the face and won.